Hello everyone, in this video tutorial I'll be going through how to plan implants within your project. I have no prosthetic envelope in this video tutorial simply because I'm only focusing on the implant placement tools, how to manipulate them, and some tips and tricks on how to plan effectively. Please do work with prosthetic outcomes when it is a live case, and I would recommend viewing video tutorial Dual Scan Wizard. Let's begin. We'll go on to stage 4, plan implants, and under that stage we'll click on create or change an implant. If you know exactly where you want to place your first implant, I suggest clicking on the 3D image exactly to the point of where you want to place your implant. This brings the cross-sectional slice to that particular point of where you want to place the implant. You've got various options on how to place an implant, and generally you would tend to use these first two up at the top. I'll show you the absolute basic one of how to place an implant, and that is a general straight implant based on your default setting of which default implant system you've selected. However, if you've used a Implant for the first time and do not have a default selected, you will have a generic implant in place that does not represent any implant system out there in the market. So if this is the case, first place your first implant and then rotate it by hovering over the axis lines, either from the top or the bottom. You'll see that as you hover over the axis lines, your cursor changes to those rotational arrows. If you want to move the implant bodily, you can just hold down the center of the implant and reposition it by letting go. Now, for those of you that do not have a default implant system set up, I'm going to show you how you can access this now. The easiest and quickest way to get into your implant properties is by double-clicking on the center of the implant. You would then need to click on Specify Implant. Get into good habits and actually input the correct guide you're going to be using for this case. So for now, you go on to stage 1 where it says choose your implant guide, and you've got a list of implants based on your library of what implants or what guides you can use for this particular case. Now EV was already set up on my system, so I'm going to choose something different so that it changes my implant in my current plan. So I'm going to go for the Implant Safe Guide Ankylos. The meaning safe generally means it's a fully guided surgery guide. This generally means you also need a guided surgery kit of these relevant implant systems. Each kit is different from each other, so it becomes a very costly investment. If you're not too bothered about having a fully guided workflow, you can opt in to just get a Implant Pilot Guide. There are two types. The regular drill system just generally means you can use a pilot drill of any manual system that you use. You would import the diameter of the pilot drill that you use, but it is not depth control. If you wish to have depth control, but only have the first initial drill as your drilling, just to give you the drilling direction and angulation starting point, the long stop drill system is the one to choose. The drills are not the same as the ones found in the guided surgery kits. These are specific special drills that you would need to order directly from Dentsply Sirona. If you were to order a guide with this particular project, it will actually appear as your shopping list when you come to order your guide. So that means the drill could actually come with your guide at the same time. They are case-specific drills, so we will only send you the relevant ones that you need for this particular project. For now, I'm going to click on Long Stop Drill System. Now, of course, it's just a pilot. That means you can always expand the rest of the diameters manually, and I can choose from any implant system that I want. I like Ankylos, so let's go on to Ankylos, which is different to the existing implant that I've got currently in the plan, just to show you that we will be changing our implant system. You can see by having a pilot guide, you've got the full range of implants that you can use. If you were to select a safe guide, sometimes it gives you some limitations. So for example, I'll click on the safe guide Ankylos. I'll click on Ankylos again. And this time only these implant ranges are available for you to choose from. That is because short or very long implants are not compatible with a safe guide. Safe guides are the fully guided workflow, and the tubes generally tend to be a little bit larger than just a pilot. That means there's more freedom of movement, especially if the implant is very short. There's hardly any supporting surfaces to keep the drill and the implant still and stable. And then the opposite effect of having long implants has the other issue of not being able to actually fit the drills in the patient's mouth, because your total drilling length is a lot longer than expected, because you also have to factor in the tube height of the guide. That means longer drills and longer implants cannot be placed in. You simply cannot open the patient's mouth that wide enough. So for now, these are the only options that you can work with, between 8 mils and 14 mils. They differ between different implant systems. For Astra EV, you will see you've got more of a selection. In this particular one, you can do a 6 mil. And then you can do a 15 mil. This is all relevant to how the guided surgery kits are designed. The limitations are usually with the guided surgery kits, not with the guide itself. Right. Now that I'm on Astra EV, I may as well stay with Astra EV. So let's stick with implant 6 as my shortest implant in this range. I'm going to right click on that implant, and I'm going to set it to default on the maxilla, and the same for the mandible. I'll always do it to be set on the shortest one first, because it just makes sense when it comes to the implant planning on the next stage, which you will see now. Once you're happy with selecting your defaults, you click on OK. And also get into good habits and label your implants accordingly. So for this particular region, I will click on implant 4.3. Click on the tooth chart and then click on OK, and it labels the implant. Now that I've got my shortest implant, from here I can then determine what length I'd like to choose from. I would think an 11 mil would be alright, but again, this is up to you, and it's based on every specific case. Every case is different. You would have to assess every case on what length and what diameter is desirable for the patient. Okay, everything else is the same. You'd move it bodily by holding down the center of the implant. You would move it either from the top, tilting it from the top, or from the bottom, and then move forward from here. Another way of drawing in an implant is to actually draw an implant. This is my favorite actually. So the first thing I want to do is actually click on the next region of where I'm going to place my other implant. Once I've got that region, I will click on draw an implant. And now, because I've set my default implant within the system, I can start off by clicking on the start of where I want the interface to begin, which is, my focus point is the pencil tip, not the implant. So pencil tip of where I want the implant to be buried, and the interface to start off with. And remember, I've set my short implant as my default, so it starts off with 6mm EV. And then I can stretch and angulate at the same time. So I'm kind of doing both in one go, killing two birds with one stone. So I'm pretty confident on this one being a more effective tool for better planning in terms of speed. So in this particular case, I would say an 8mm should be fine in this particular angle. Again, you've got the same sort of tools available for fine movement tweaking, but generally at this sort of tool, you don't really need to do that much of an adjustment. Okay. Now again, get into good habits and relabel your implants. Double click on the implant and click on the tooth chart to relabel the implant. You can also label it differently as writing down lower right 3 in that window over there, and that too also labels it according to how you've typed in your indication. So now that I've placed 2 of my implants, I'm going to show you some other tips and tricks on how to effectively plan multiple implants in one go. When you space 2 implants away from each other, you will now have the option place implants between. If you click on that, and then you could select maximum as possible, but as I said, this is an all-on 4 case initially, so we are only going to place 2 implants. We can align them parallel in 3D or align them on the panoramic curve, and we're going to click on OK. What that does is evenly place out 2 more implants within the space of these 2 that we've placed in previously. That's equal increment spacing amongst each other. That takes away a lot of the guesswork. I highly recommend using this tool when placing multiple implants. Now, if I want to make them all parallel with each other, okay, I will go to my left where it says what to do next, and I will click on move implants. Let's say implant 4 is the angulation I'm happy with. I will make all my other implants parallel to implant number 4. So I'm going to select all other implants under the section where it says move implants, because those are the ones that are going to be affected in moving. And then I'm going to go down to where it says select reference implant. My reference implant is number 4 because that's the one I want all the others to match to. Once I've done that, I can click on parallel in 3D and watch my 3D image. This will now all pop together and they are now all parallel with each other. From this point, you can then move your implants and make sure that they are all within bone. I like to actually use the other tool, so if I want to come out of that, I'll click on plan implants. I'll click on each implant, move it bodily, and this will not change the angulation of the implant. All I'm doing it is bringing the implant within bone. This is a very quick and effective way of planning multiple implants in one go. You can double check the actual angulations of the implants by clicking on your implants relations calculator at the top. And you will see that all your implants are still at 0 from each other. That will give you optimum passive positions for your framework, optimum longevity of your frameworks as well. The lifespan of your frameworks is all going to be extended because all the forces of directions are going right directly onto the center axis of the implant. This gives you the optimum sort of positioning for frameworks when it comes to fitting. Another way of placing in an implant is actually placing an implant to the side, copying its actual angulation. And to do that, you can click on create or change an implant, and then you can select place an implant at a distance. So from implant lower right 3, I want to move towards the patient's left, and I want it parallel with my implant lower right 3, so I'm going to leave it as parallel in 3D. And that places an implant to the side. Now that was just at 7 mils. Let's do that again. The default is set at 7 mils. This is fine if it's a small sort of molar, sort of tooth right next to each other. But if this is a molar, you want to actually increase the distance. So let's do that again. Place an implant at a distance, and let's make this 14 mils. Parallel in 3D on the patient's left. And that's 14 mils to the side. Bone, However, that is very shallow and you're definitely not going to fit anything in this region. So this is a great example of what it would look like if you were to hit a nerve. I don't know if you noticed there was a collision warning that came up on the screen. I will now bring this back up again by clicking on my collision button at the top to just cross-check that there are collisions there. And then this window will pop up only for a few seconds, so make sure you click on Show List before it disappears. And it will tell you what's colliding. It will tell you that implant 7 is colliding with nerve 0.8. Well, in this case, it's this particular nerve here. You have no space between them, so it actually is a collision. So this is quite a handy tool to see what is colliding with the implant. Now, we cannot plan with this unless you do some sort of grafting or manipulation of the nerve positioning. So what I'm going to do is actually just right click on that particular implant and delete it. With all my other implants, since they are in the project, I'm now going to relabel them to get into good habits by double clicking on them, clicking on the tooth chart, click on OK. Do the same for the other one. And I quite like to have them all the same, so what I'll do is I'll change the lower right 3 as well. Now that I've got them all in the right sort of indication, I'm going to go and check through each and every one of them to make sure I've got sufficient length implants within each implant. Okay, and that is a quick way of drawing in implants or placing in implants, or even adding multiple implants in one go and manipulating the angulations of the implant.